All right, so good afternoon. We're here at British American Tobacco in the Philippines with CEO Countryhead Jim Lafferty. He was also the CEO of Coca-Cola in Nigeria, as well as the CEO and Countryhead of P&G Philippines. And we're talking about specific elements of my new book, Develop Exponential Power. In this case, I'm going to ask Jim to share a little bit about humility and leadership and what impact that has on culture and people that you're leading. So Jim, thanks very much for being here.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. Your time is very valuable, and so please know that I appreciate that very much. You're a very humble guy. Tell me, what impact has humility had on you, your career, and the way you lead people? Or anything else you might want to say about that?
Yeah, I think, humility is very important for me. I'm very sensitive about it because I think there are people in the world that because of their family name, or because of their title, or because of their lineage, or because of how much money they inherited, they like the boys club concept. They like to be where they're given preferential. I don't blame them. I mean, the system works for them. You say, this is my name, and people go, oh, this was my father, and people go, oh my God, oh my, that's amazing. It's a nice feeling. So they like that system because through just birthright, nothing that they have done, but what their father did or their grandfather did or whatever, because of that, they will ride on a certain coattail.
Yes.
Now, I know it's controversial, and there are many people born of wealth who don't do that. What I'm referring to is the people who ride that as their singular point of being. I have very little respect for these individuals because they've not earned anything in their life. What they do is they ride on what their father did, or their family name, or whatever, or a trust fund that was set up by someone a lot smarter than them. And then they go and behave in a way that they think they're better than other people. And that's why they're not successful as individuals. That's why people do not follow them. People hang around them because of money or power, or they want to touch power. But you take that all away and you see how many friends they got. I grew up of a lower middle class family in the United States. My father did not go to college. My mother did not go to college. My father was a traveling salesman. My mother was a housewife. I was one of 7 kids. We had no money. When I graduated from high school, when I went to high school and I got into some very elite schools in the U.S., my father said, you can't go there. We don't have the money. You will go to the local school, University of Cincinnati. It's a state school. You pay in-state fees, and we can afford to kind of help you in that. I paid all of it myself. And so, and not having the money and the opportunities, I stayed home and I went to a simple state university, University of Cincinnati. It's a good school. It's nothing. No one's talking about, oh my God, a University of Cincinnati. It's not a Harvard or a Yale or anything like that. I graduated from there. A company like Procter & Gamble doesn't even recruit at that school. Even though Cincinnati's his hometown, P&G has subtly decided that there's not enough talent there to spend recruiting energy, so we'll go to Boston, to Harvard, and we'll go to Yale, and we'll go to University of Chicago, and Northwestern, and we'll go to these top schools, but we're not going to spend our energy there. So, I get hired by P&G as a fitness instructor, making $5 an hour. At that point in time, I started my own company. Why? Because my girlfriend got pregnant, and then became my wife. I'm a college student, and this is in the 80s. The world's a different place today than it was 30 years ago.
And having kids sure is a life changer.
And being pregnant on a college campus was a big deal, and having a kid out of wedlock was a big deal. I was a father. We kept the baby. He's now my 28-year-old son.
Congratulations.
And we struggled financially, and I did everything. I worked 3 and 4 jobs. I dug ditches and put in sewer lines. That's why when I was in Nigeria once and I was in a meeting with the plant people, they thought, oh, this is just some rich expat. And then I was making some comment that I had found a bunch of our workers. I always found if you want to see what's going on in the plant, go at 3 a.m. So I went at 3 a.m. to one of our factories, and everybody was like shirtless in a food plant where we're packing liquids, and you got people sweating all over the bottles, and I was completely disgusted, and I said, I want everybody clothed. this guy was in this meeting and he said, you know, sir, you need to understand how hot and how hard the work is. And I said, wait a minute, stop. Okay, don't lecture me. I've done harder work than anybody in this room. Okay, I used to stand in sewage up to my hips digging a ditch. Okay, don't even tell me about hard work and sweating. And I did that and then went and studied and got up and went to class. Okay, I did it at 3 a.m. when they could close the road. We would show up at 3 a.m. and dig. And then close it back up for the cars and in the morning traffic.
Yes.
Don't even talk to me about this stuff. I understand if you don't like it, don't take the job. But don't take the job and then not have sanitary gear on when you're making a food product. And so that was what I did, a bunch of different jobs to basically feed a family, including digging ditches. I'm working at P&G as a fitness instructor. And through that, you meet people, and then they say you can apply for marketing, and I apply for marketing, and I get turned down once because I'm not from the right pedigree, and then I fight and make them re-interview me again, and then on the remaining interview, I get hired by P&G, and I start in the class of 1985 with basically all MBAs from top schools, and then this physiology, psychology major from the University of Cincinnati, who's like 3-4 years younger than everybody else. And I had to outwork all of them, and you know, the guys I shared an office with was MIT, Sloan Business School of Business, University of Chicago, and another University of Chicago grad, MBA. So all of them from top 5, top 10 MBA programs worldwide. From affluence, and then you got the UC grad, you know, who studied physiology and was a fitness instructor in the gym. And you know, I beat all of them. I stayed longer, I made it the highest levels of the company, and I passed all of them because I worked harder than them and I never took anything for granted. Whilst they would say, I have this MBA stamp on my forehead, I'd say, I don't have this, I have to work hard. And I realized something, that MBA is just nothing but a kiss. It's a suggestion of the possibilities. It doesn't guarantee anything. And a lot of these people with the MBA on their forehead, it doesn't stand for Masters of Business Administration. It stands for mediocre but arrogant. And that's what it means. And you know, they think because they've got this stamp on their head, they don't have to put in the time, the effort, and that their job is to just step into a company and like share pearls of wisdom because they're so brilliant that you know, let's just remember something. It was basically MBAs that cooked up the entire global financial crisis through all kinds of questionable financial mechanisms and derivatives. They basically screwed up the entire global economy with all of their trickery. Because it's back to the stuff things that I never learned. I learned how to make money the old-fashioned way. You develop a product that people want, and you produce it, and you sell it, and you make a profit. What they do is make money through trading, you know, inanimate objects that you can't even, that are not even tangible, and then, you know, making money on the spreads and on the derivatives and, you know, all these kind of sophisticated financial instruments that basically bring everything down. You know, you look at the list of people that was involved in the global financial crisis, and a bunch of PhDs and MBAs. It wasn't people like me.
Would you say that because your beginnings were rather humble, would you say that, and there's a lot to be said about hard work, but would you say that drove you to work harder?
Absolutely. I lived in it took me, when I was 6 months in P&G, the marketing director of my organization took me to lunch and told me, calm down and relax. It doesn't matter what your background was. The reason he did that was, because my boss told him, this guy's got an inferiority complex. I was intimidated like crazy. I thought they made a mistake. I mean, everybody you would meet, you say like, look, so where's your background? I mean, if I click through everybody I shared offices with, I mean, like the most unimpressive was I went to West Point and was an officer in the military and special forces, and then after my 6-year commitment, I got out and came to P&G. I mean, everybody else was Harvard MBA, Wharton MBA, Chicago MBA, Yale, blah, blah, you know, these, everything was Ivy League and, you know, top notch, and, you know, they went to Phillips Exeter Academy and these amazing prep schools. And here I am, the St. Xavier High School Jesuit boy, went to University of Cincinnati and studied psych. And, you know, ran my own business at $5 an hour teaching fitness classes. I mean, you know, and so it took me a long time to realize, you know what? I'm as good as they are, and I'll outwork them. And I don't take anything for granted. My competitive advantage my whole career has been see, when there's a problem when you get a Harvard MBA. I'll tell you the problem: the weight of expectations. The minute you get it, you say, you're now in a race. They publish a book of all their alumni. They show what everybody's doing, and it's a horse race. You see, this guy made CEO at his job. I got to make CEO of mine, and all that. You become a slave to your expectations, and because of that, you become more political. Everything becomes career focused because you've got to stay up with your class. You got to do what your class, what everybody else is doing.
What does that do to humility?
I was just going to teach the rest of my life and make $25,000 a year. I can always go and do that. And so I came in and I just did the right thing. I never worried about, I was already successful versus a normal psych grad who starves to death. I mean, the normal psych grad, you either go to graduate school or you starve. I mean, there's not a third option. I was already a success. All my professors were proud of me. You landed a job in marketing at P&G. Wow. They would have me come back and speak and, the whole bit. I was already it. So it gave me an example. Because you're humble and you can understand the things. When you come to an office, of which, if I take this office, I have people who clean the floor. I have secretaries and that. The way that I treat them, having been in their shoes, they respect me, they like me, and they want to work for me. Because they're not slaves, and these are human beings. And you understand and you can empathize with their viewpoint. They say he was like us, and I can be like Jim. Jim came from humble roots. I have a chance in life. If I work hard, I can make it. They believe in a dream that they can get something bigger. And that's important to a leader. A leader that treats people based on a caste system never is going to be effective.
So I think that pretty much sums it up. Humility, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you have to empathize and to treat everyone. Same, realize we're all going in the same place. We're all going to die. I haven't changed in 30 years. The person that in terms of humility, what's changed is I've taken jobs of higher responsibility where the humility is more in focus and it becomes more of a strength to the entire organization. That's all that's changed.
Yeah, I think also what brings, what's the benefit of humility? People just focus more on what needs to be done rather than the politics of the game, or on looking good, or being the top performer, rather than making everybody look good, not just the individuals.
And you get the best out of people. When you're not humble, people want to please you because you're the boss. And so they'll tell you what they want to hear. I don't want to hear what I want to hear. I want to hear what they think.
Yes.
And through humility, you give people courage to speak their mind and to say, I disagree with you. And sorry, but I disagree. Now, it should be done with respect, not like, you're you idiot, I disagree, but you say, I'm sorry, but I disagree, and I'll tell you why. That's just fine. Humility allows it to happen. The lack of humility says, well, wait a minute, you disagree with me in public, how could you, a humble person can take that in stride. And so you get humility, you're very smart to have that as one of the powers because it brings out the best in people. If I knew even myself as courageous as I can be, when I've had bosses that were highly sensitive and less humble, I was nervous about sometimes how I would word things. I would spend more time worrying about how I worded things because they couldn't swallow truth very well.
Yes,
it's very painful. You'd have to think about, how do I set this up so that they'll listen.
It's like a dance around the bush almost. And authenticity goes down.
And so it's an important leadership attribute.
Thanks very much.
Okay.
Really fantastic.
Thank you.
Thanks for your sharing, your time. Your time is very valuable. I really appreciate it. All the best to you.
All right. Thank you very much, Bill.